All right. Who's ready to take another look at the garden? All right. Best place as any for us to start is to do another little update on our zucchini and our squash, which, as you can see, are enormous. The squash are a little bit far behind, but to combat the blossom end rot that these two plants are susceptible to, we have been treating them with some rot spray once a week. Yep. Every Wednesday. Everything that's fruiting, we've been giving it. I'll show you an example of what the blossom end rot looks like. These two right here that are looking kind of white, you know, grayish, kind of rotten on the end, that's what it looks like. This right here is what a healthy blossom looks like. And hopefully those will be turning into some bigger, healthy, beautiful yellow squash. You can see these plants are absolutely covered. I mean, they got lots of fruit. And then any that rot, we just kind of peel off and give to the rabbits. Okay.
There's some rabbits right over there.
Oh, there are? All right, here's our zucchini. Kind of similar to what they looked like last time, but the plants are bigger, healthier. There's a crooked one in here that looks like it's gonna do just fine. But anyways, that's the main concern right now, is making sure that those come to fruit and don't rot. All right, we'll enter the garden from the other end because there's heartbreak at one end, but wherever there's heartbreak, there's always new opportunities. So first and foremost, this right here, this azalea right here, I think it's a goner. I've given it some Super Thrive once or twice, and it's still not doing well. The other azalea here transplanted really well, but this azalea here is just not looking so hot, and it may be a goner, but that's fine. That will allow this bush to fill in more and a lot more space for this, as well as our butterfly bush. I'm going to insert a picture here of our butterfly bush with an actual butterfly on it yesterday, and the bees are loving this thing. They are eating it up, which is great. And we're doing a lot to try and bring in some more pollinators. All right, so the good news, the best news, our indeterminate tomatoes are absolutely thriving, out of control, super duper happy. We had to go get bigger poles. I am 6'1", and these poles come right up to my eye level. So they are nice and long and tall. We have our lemon boys. That's these four here, and here are what they are looking like. All right, so there's some of my fingers as a comparison. And this plant is just absolutely covered in them. This gets the same fruit rot treatment spray, and though these do not currently have problems with blossom end rot, the calcium in the spray is really good for it. And it's super simple. You mix about 2 tablespoons of 64 ounces of water, you use an aerosolizer, and spray it on the leaves once a week. And you shouldn't do it every week forever, but every other week is not a bad idea. And it's nice for rapid growth when it's growing, producing lots of fruit. You just spray it on the leaves until the leaves are damp. These got a treatment earlier today, and it's not toxic. It's not going to hurt me. I'm not going to eat it, but it helps avoid some of that blossom end rot, and the calcium is absorbed directly through the leaves. The important thing with that treatment is to just not do it in the heat of the day. Do it first thing in the morning or in the evening right now when things have cooled off. That's a good time. All right, this end of the bed, we have our Parks Whoppers. And the Parks Whoppers, again, are nice and big and beautiful. You can see we've done, this right here is the result of a sucker that we trimmed. And you'll notice too that we took off the suckers and a lot of the low-lying limbs so that it would focus more on the fruit up high. Your tomato plant, if it has too many runners from suckers, it has too many of these branches that come off, it'll spend too much energy making those and not enough energy making the fruit. And so that's what we want. We want fruit. And the neat thing about trimming a sucker like this, and you can always find a sucker from a leaf stem. A sucker grows out of the middle, kind of out of the crook of a leaf group, is that you can take that sucker, get the camera, there we go, and you can stick it in dirt, and it'll take off And I mean, you can have hundreds of tomato plants by the end of the season, but we just took one that Brianna really loves and stuck it in the dirt, and it's doing well. It doesn't look like it, but it's rooted and it's happy and growing, and we'll have another lemon boy in no time. Okay. All right, we got our first red fruit on our Mexico midget, but with the Mexico midget, it was actually already a little bug-eaten. For that, you can use some diatomaceous earth to keep things off the plants, but these are what the Mexico midgets look like. Focus, there we go. They're beautiful, and they only get about this big. I've seen, there may be one on here that looks a little bit bigger, but they're just beautiful. They're super duper sweet, and they're prolific. Right around the corner, though, which one are these? These are the
yellow pear.
Yellow pear. I always want to say golden pear, but it's a yellow pear. And you can see why they're called yellow pear. They will turn beautiful yellow, and they have this just lovely kind of teardrop pear shape. They get big and tasty, and those will be coming around in no time at all. Okay. And then, let's see here. This right here is our sun gold. Again, for comparison, this is what the sun gold's going to look like. Focus. Focus. Oh, little spider on the gimbal. Can you focus? Whatever. All right. The sun golds will ripen in these clusters. And those are going to get a little bit bigger. But those are fabulous. All right, get in the dirt. Okay. Worry about that later. All right. So here's some of the first bad news. This bed here, was full of green peas, and the rabbits got in it and decimated them. Ate every single one of them. So what we have done here instead is that this whole bed has been reseeded with a mix of wildflowers, and that's going to help bring in the pollinators. Here is a little update on this is the banana pepper. This is Brianna's favorite. Yeah. And so there's our beautiful banana pepper. I don't know why you're not focusing. I feel like that's the common theme here. There we go. Okay. And then here is our Scotch bonnet. And there are some little early buds.
Maybe.
Little early buds, but no real fruit on it. The one that is covered in fruit, I showed you last time, we had our Purple Beauty bell pepper. See, Purple Beauty. And the two that it first formed had the, the first two that formed had that terrible blossom end rot. So now that we've treated it, that should go away. But now we just have a nice little green one. Okay, these four here are our cayenne peppers. And the cayenne pepper plants, here, I'll change my angle so that y'all can actually see. This one is covered in little green cayenne peppers. Here's another little one right there.
It's the only one that has any peppers that I can see.
It's okay. They will love it as it gets hotter. That is something that they're going to enjoy. But as you can see, there's also a bug that likes these things and is eating the leaves. So we need to do another treatment of diatomaceous earth on the leaves since we've had a lot of rain as of late. These also need watering less. You water these too much, you're not going to get fruit. And so we'll probably hold off on the watering, stress them out a little bit. These orange bell peppers and the other peppers in general, because they're not used to daily watering and they prefer a little bit of a drier climate. All right. Lastly, yep. Yeah, we've got a good sprout there. All right. Lastly, at the end, you may notice from the first video that this was originally the bed that contained the baby bok choy, or just bok choy that we were going to pick early, and the lacinato Tuscan kale, right, or dinosaur kale. And the rabbits got in here and decimated that as well. So we have had to move to a chicken wire system, and I have composted what remained in this bed. There was enough bok choy we thought it would survive, but it bolted. And once bok choy bolts, it gets bitter, it's not very tasty. And if you don't know what bolting is when a brassica, something in the cabbage family, goes to flower. So it begins trying to flower and then to produce seed. It has decided, I'm done with the leaves, it's time for me to produce seed because I'm stressed. I'm going to die. I want to make more of me, so then it starts making seeds. And at that point, it loses its nutrients, it starts tasting really bitter. It's not very good. So I have reseeded this bed with green peas and more green beans. Green beans back 2/3, green peas front third. And let's see here if I can swing that little camera down. You can see there's a little seedling there. I think that's a green bean seed. And there's another little green bean seed. And I don't see any of the peas coming up, but I sprouted these. I actually sprouted these in a container with some wet paper towels, and I know that they sprouted, so I know that they'll propagate. All right, excuse me, honey bunny. Let's fix that camera. This gimbal is great. All right, here you can see that my Egyptian walking onion failed. I don't know why. It had good soil, good fertilizer, good sunlight, good water, and it just wouldn't do it. Okay. Here are my hydrangeas, and somebody's telling me the other day that the color of the flowers is dictated by the pH of the soil. So I'm going to play around with this and see what we can do. But as you can see right now, it is just this beautiful, you know, light pink to hot pink. We'll see if that matures into the blue purple that we'll see later in the season. But also I may be able to make some nutritional adjustments, some soil adjustments, and see if we can get that color that we're looking for. For the time being though, that hot pink though looks really nice with our China roses. They're in the knockout rose kind of family. So, and these are finally showing up on camera, right? Neat thing about roses, I may have said this the last time, there's no such thing as a poisonous rose. It doesn't exist. And if you're raising roses yourself, then you can use the petals and make rose water. It's certainly much cheaper to make it yourself than to buy it. But a really, really cool thing about roses, and you see this little bulb end where the flower was. Focus. The autofocus on this is just terrible. Okay, there we go. All right, so that little bulb there that I just knocked is going to be what's called a rose hip. And the rose hip is the fruit of the rose plant. And I'm actually going to harvest some this year and give them a try. I've never had a rose hip before. I've seen them plenty of times. But they're interesting. They kind of look like tiny tomatoes when they're ripe, but they don't taste like tomatoes. All right, let's make a real quick jaunt over to one of our fig trees. And you can see this Celeste fig is, whoops, covered. I mean, it is just absolutely covered. And this is just its first growing season with us.
That's great. Ooh, I'm getting eaten up.
I'm sorry. Well, we'll be done in just a minute. Okay. And I'm excited about that. Now the backyard. This is where stuff is getting out of control. They're really, really, really getting wild. Okay. So our cucumbers, these are all the cucumbers. Remember how tiny they were in the last video? These things are enormous. I don't know if there's fruit on them yet, but they are covered in flowers.
They're really small, but they're...
And they are, yeah, there's an example of a little fruit.
About an inch long.
Yeah. And we are going to have more cucumbers than you can take a stick at. So, there it is. And they are busting out of this netting. Oh, here's a big one. Well, big comparatively speaking.
Oh, yeah.
All right, come on. There we go. That one's good. 2 inches. 2 inches long. Yeah, we're going to have to bring up the netting. We have lots of netting, so we'll change out the netting and maybe do some hoops. But it's keeping the rabbits off it. They don't seem to bother it. Truthfully, all those fine blazed, ooh, they're on to me. They're on to me. Okay, let's take a look at our strawberries. This here was a May strawberry. And so it's basically done. It's still got some flowers on it. It may produce a little bit more fruit. But these here are our June blooming varieties. And they are just covered. We already picked one. We've already picked about a half dozen. And we're going to have some more that are ripe tomorrow to pick. You can pick green strawberries and pickle them. And they're really tasty, but they're not sweet at all. It's not a sweet thing. And the red ones, of course, are just ripe and delicious, and we'll have those tomorrow. All right, now let's go to Wild Pumpkin Alley. Now that's a blossom end rod. That's a failed pumpkin. Okay, so I'll show them a pumpkin. Well, I sprayed them today, so they got a good treatment of the blossom rot spray. But yeah, that for sure is a pumpkin. And then here's lots of other pumpkin blossoms. But let me pull out, look out, Brianna. I'm gonna give them the full effect of Pumpkin Alley. Those are all pumpkins. Those are all enormous. Here, let's show a hand comparison on this leaf. And to put things in perspective, I have giant cartoon hands, and this leaf still is enormous. And there's some at the other end that are massive, 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 massive. Yeah. Keep getting in front of me. All right. Well, you didn't want to be in the video, so I'm just warning you. But yeah, this one's even bigger. These leaves are massive. Okay. All right. Raspberry's looking good. That other raspberry that I told you that I was trying to save did not work out. So I went and bought another raspberry of a different variety. And then our blueberries. This one's looking good. And this one's looking good. It's going to take a season or two for them to get any decent size. They will produce good fruit next year. But this is that's more of kind of a long haul sort of a thing. All right. Now, moving on. We have our okra. And they are just as happy as they can be. Trying to fix this camera. Golly. Okay. There we go. Here's the okra. And they are just as happy as they can be. They're getting to be about 12 inches tall. And these things will get to be like 7 or 8 feet tall by the time that they're done. And they will produce okra all summer long. And we are super duper excited about that. All right. Let's make a look-see here at our elephant ears. Again, these are beautiful things. They're in the taro family, and they have just these little tubers that you plant in the ground and produce these enormous leaves. And this is just the first leaf, but this leaf is going to get to be, I don't know, 24 inches across. I mean, they get huge, or 24 inches long. And they come up with multiple spikes. Here's another example of another. It comes up with all these little spikes, which will be leaves out of the ground. And then here's this. They're small right now, but they will get big. And all 3 of them beautifully have come up, and we've got multiple spikes on all of them.
There's Bunny right there.
Where?
Right there.
Oh, no. Bunny watch. There it is. Yeah. I drove up to the house the other day, and we legitimately had like 30 rabbits just at our end of the neighborhood. I am not kidding.
As long as they don't go in the garden, I don't care.
Okay. All right, let's take a look. See here. Ignore the kids' stuff everywhere. Here are our shallots. We planted some shallots, and they're all coming up. I planted some elephant garlic, and it has not come up. Our mint plant is thriving. It got fresh soil, fresh fertilizer, fresh pot, and it's just happy as it can be. And it is stuck in a pot so that it doesn't take over the garden. But love it. This here is another shallot. That'll be tasty. And you can't really see it. Well, we do have one that's poked up. Yeah. Here is one of our russet potato plants. Now, this method with these bags, you start out low, you put your potatoes and plant them at the bottom, and you let the sprout come up. And as the sprout comes up, you unfurl the bag and add more dirt. And the idea there is that you create a long root, I should say, and off of that root, all of the tubers will produce. And the longer your root, the more potential tubers you can produce. Now, these have good fertilizer, great soil, lots of sunshine, I think that they're going to do really, really well. They seem to do really well thus far. And the great thing about doing potatoes is you can grow potatoes in any 5-gallon bucket, and all it takes is a sprouted, one of those ugly potatoes at the back of your pantry that you forget about. Those are the perfect potatoes for this. All right, the San Marzano tomatoes.
2 of them have fruit on them.
2 of them have fruit, and all 4 are looking great. We thinned these out, we've staked them. And you can use cotton twine, which we did at the bottom, or you could just use these nice little green zip ties. But just make sure if you do the zip ties that you leave room for 1 to cut them and 2 for the plant to grow. You can see I kind of abrased this one while I was tightening it. But the San Marzanos look good. Where's, you said there was fruit.
This one has the biggest fruit right
This one has the biggest fruit. Okay, here we go. It's hard to get in here with the chicken wire to keep the deer and the rabbits out. Yeah. Yeah, they are a plum-style tomato. They'll get to be about, 3.5 inches long, and they'll be really, really tasty. Those are the ones that I'll use for my passata. Now, a couple other neat things, and you can see this little pattern that I have here, is I planted radishes, and I just thinned them out yesterday amongst the tomatoes. The neat thing about the radishes is that they grow quickly in about 28 to 35 days, and they don't compete for the same nutrients that the potatoes want. The tomatoes. And so they make for good bed mates. Don't we all hope for that? All right, this bed, the last time we talked, was dead. It did not germinate. For whatever reason, it was a bad packet of seeds, didn't work. I went back to my old mainstay of like Southern States Reliable Kentucky Blue Wonder, the climbing variety, and that's exactly what these are. I have 3 wonderful rows, perfectly spaced out. They all germinated. Even where it looks like there's a gap, there's germination, there's a sprout that's coming up. And these will climb all over this and produce beautiful, delicious green beans all summer long. That's the idea. And we'll can them, and we'll pickle them, and we'll freeze them, and of course we'll eat them fresh. All right, so round off, we've got chives, delicious, cilantro that's just coming up. This is a, I'm blanking on it, a daikon radish that we had the top left over from one of our hot pot nights, and we just took the top part and stuck it in the dirt, and it sprouted, and it looks like it's heading to seed, and if it makes seed, we'll save the seeds and plant the seeds next year. But if it actually grows more fruit, we'll eat more fruit. But if nothing else, we'll have some free daikon radish seeds that we wouldn't have otherwise. And I also had to repot our dill plant because this thing is enormous. And this thing is also going to seed. These right here are going to be beautiful, wonderful smelling little flowers. And those will go to seed as well. So we'll have dill seed. Now the thing about dill seed is that you can hold on to it and plant it, or you can also use it in your pickling. And I would love to use that in our pickling. Okay. Quick little round off of the herbs. We have basil, 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 basil. This is where the dill was. I think we're gonna root more basil here and plant it there. We've got trimmings that we're trying to root. We've got wonderful oregano. If you live nearby and you need an oregano, we've got plenty. And our thyme is finally really taken off. This is the winter time, and it's great. I cooked with it last night, and it's just fabulous. It's a nice, I'd say mild thyme. It's not overpowering, but it's really, really tasty. This also here, I just started some parsley seeds yesterday, so we're going to have wonderful parsley here in no time at all. All right. So, that is about it. It is so rewarding. And compared to, man, I am in HVAC alley. Let me move around to the front of the house. And I've got the camera on me. Don't want y'all to hear all my neighbors' HVACs. That's kind of annoying. And there's another little bunny. They have no fear of me at all. Let's get back in frame. So the nice thing about the garden is that it is always constantly producing. And there's always something else for the season. And what's great about this time of the year, before it gets too hot, is that if you experience crop failure, which we've experienced a little bit of crop failure, or pests, as we've also seen some pests, there's still plenty of time for you to plant more seedlings, go to your garden center and buy some more seedlings, or start more seed. The thing is, don't let it get you down. Take that opportunity to get back up and realize, like, okay, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? What can I make instead? What's something I've wanted to try? Or maybe I have extra seeds. You know, always hold on to your extra seeds. Don't just plant everything that you have. We have experienced crop failure. I've gardened my whole life and still experience crop failure and still experience pests with bugs and rabbits and stuff getting into it. And so it's just, don't give up. There's always going to be more opportunities. There's going to be more growing seasons. There's nothing to get upset or worried about. And I'm really, really excited about the stuff that now we have a chance to grow. Like the okra wasn't something we originally planned. I love okra. And since Brianna kind of said on a whim, yeah, let's get some okra. We planted it. We have it. It'll be fabulous. We'll really enjoy having it all season. So would love to hear from you. If you have any questions about what's here, I am not an expert gardener by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm sure there's many other resources for any questions that you have, but would love to hear your questions on what's grown in the garden. I'm going to continue to post updates as we have them. thank you as always for subscribing to the channel, for checking us out, and I will see you all around next time. Thanks for joining me in my garden tonight.